Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Merit CX webcast. I'm Tom Evans, and thank you for your patience as we were waiting to get started. We wanted to give everyone as much opportunity as possible to join us from the top, so your understanding is much appreciated. Today's webinar is the impact of social media among American car buyers, and our presenter is Dr. David Insing, who I'm personally going to label as probably the leading CX analyst and researcher in the automotive industry. He'll be sharing results of a recent Merit CX study where he examined the impact social media reviews and review sites have on auto purchases. So now, while you might not be in the auto industry from a professional perspective, I'm sure you'll find Dave's presentation interesting on many levels. Plus, he'll be offering some advice on how to manage and enhance your organization's social media reviews, and that's advice that's going to apply across all industries. So I'll introduce Dave more formally in just a minute, but as always, some things to know before we get started. First, the webinar is being recorded, and you will receive a copy of the recording in a follow-up email, and that email will be in your inbox within 24 hours. So, but if you miss it, just reach out to one of us on the show today, and we'll be happy to send it your way. Secondly, we will have a Q&A session once Dave wraps up his portion of the presentation, so please feel free to submit your questions at any time during the presentation, but just know we'll be saving those questions for the designated Q&A time. And if you do have a question, just type that into the question box on your screen and hit submit, and we'll do our best then to get to all those questions that you submitted before the program ends at the top of the hour. So about Dave. Dave is Vice President of Mobility Research Consulting, and in this capacity, he provides research design consultation to clients. He facilitates continuous improvement of existing studies, and he manages Merit CX's internal automotive studies. Dave has over 17 years of experience conducting and overseeing automotive customer experience programs at Merit CX, as well as its predecessor, Merit Research. Previously, Dave held several positions, including Vice President of BOC Integration and Senior Strategic Consulting Director. And then prior to joining Merit CX, Dave was an assistant professor of psychology at the University of Toledo, where he taught graduate and undergraduate courses. He supervised doctoral and master level research and conducted outcome-based research as well. So Dave, as you see, completed doctoral and master's degrees in psychology from Bowling Green State University, and he holds a bachelor's of arts degree in psychology from DePaul University. And he also completed a psychology internship at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. And then in his free time, he plays a lot of squash and runs marathons, both of the 13 and 26 variety. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn this over to Dave, and we can get it started.
Thanks a lot, Tom. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you go or where you are. I want to do one correction there. He said that I run marathons. I really, to be honest, I more like trudge marathons. Not real fast, but I get them done, so I'm happy about that. Anyways, this is a presentation on the impact of social media among American car buyers, part 2. The reason it is part 2 is because we replicated a study we did last year. So we're going to be looking at some trends from year to year. I'm focusing this on American market. But just I know we have some Canadians on the line. We also have the automotive section has Canadian numbers in a separate presentation. So if you're from Canada and you want the Canadian numbers, just let us know and we will get those to you. Okay, so let's move and see what we're doing here. So the first thing is just a little bit about the methodology. In both 2017 and 2018, we did an online survey, and the important thing to note on this slide is that the respondents to this survey were people that had purchased a vehicle, a new vehicle, in the last couple of years. So we got to always think that that's the people that we sampled when we're looking at some of these results, and I'll point out how that might have skewed things, especially when we're looking across industry. The other thing is that in 2017, we had over 13,000 responses, and then in 2018, we had about 5,500 to 5,600 responses. That looks like a big difference. The reason for that difference is that in 2017, we thought that we might want to cut the data by vehicle manufacturer, but we decided not to do that for 2018, so we didn't need nearly as many respondents. Due to the wonders of statistics, you have 13,000 respondents, you got about a 0.9 percentage point margin for error. You get to 6,000, 5,500, it's just a 1.3 percentage point margin of error. So really, anything over 1,000 well-sampled responses is going to give you a good margin of error. Just to give an example, if you have 1,500 respondents, you can predict for the entire U.S. population of 300 million people at about 3 percentage points. So those numbers are fine. Okay, first let's look at overall social media usage. So this section is not automotive specific, it's across industry. And we just want to look at how people use social media and how people use particularly customer reviews. So one of the first things we did is we asked people and we said, from the list of activities below, please indicate what types of customer review related activities you engage in. And then they had three choices. They had read customer reviews, write customer reviews, or neither. And I know this is kind of an eye chart, and I'm not going to go through it specifically, but you see that there's a high frequency of usage for a lot of things like major purchases, buying appliances, buying electronics, buying computers. A lot of people are reading reviews. I have the automotive ones in there specifically highlighted just to give you a kind of a frame of reference for when we're talking about the automotive stuff. So buying a vehicle, 58% people said that they read reviews. Choosing a dealership, 35%. And then we have some things that are a lot less, like choosing a gas station, choosing a convenience store. But one of the things that I really wanted to point out about this, except for maybe those ones way down at the bottom, this is really a pretty powerful thing. If you think about your marketing initiatives, and let's take a bank, choosing a bank, 16%. That sounds low. 16% of people read reviews before choosing a bank. That sounds low, but if you have a marketing initiative that's affecting 16% of your intenders, because these are people that are I'm going to choose a bank, I'm going to buy a vehicle, I'm going to buy a computer. Affecting that many intenders is really important. So even though some of these numbers might look small, I think it's a lot of people. So we also asked them if they trust reviews or not. And in both 2017 and 2018, a little over half of the customers found social media reviews to be trustworthy. There was a slight uptake in trustworthiness, and it's due to a higher percentage of those under age 35 that believe reviews are trustworthy. And if you think about it, though, even at 56%, we still have over 40% of the people who are saying that these reviews aren't very trustworthy. So there's a lot of room for improvement there, and we'll talk about how to do that. And of those that don't trust the reviews, what are some of the reasons why? And some of the reasons were consistent from 2017 to 2018. People were concerned about fake reviews or reviews that are paid for or untruthful. They were concerned about lack of verification, and they were concerned that the reviews might skew negatively. So those kept coming up. The other things that were kind of new for 2018 is a number of people talked about privacy concerns, and that's privacy of just looking at the reviews, fear of being tracked and all that kind of stuff. And then in the United States, interestingly, this didn't come up in the Canadian data. In the United States, we had people talking about just distrust of social media in general because there's some perceived political bias. I think that just kind of speaks to the whole thing we have going on in the United States right now about political bias. We also asked people about their frequency of writing reviews. And when we look at this, we need to remember, again, that this is a sample of recent vehicle buyers, and that's probably why the vehicle and sales and service numbers are higher than the rest of them. But what's important here is that industries like hotels, appliances, computers, and automotive all have considerably higher rates than the others. And also, there's about 75% to 90% of customers that have not left reviews. So there's a lot of area for improvement there. And one way to possibly improve it that we're going to talk more about is simply asking people if they'd be willing to leave a review after doing some sort of other survey. So we also ask people what sort of if they've gotten surveys from their OEMs or their manufacturers after a purchase, and if they did, would they be, and they were asked, would they be willing to leave a review at a social media site? And you can see here that the numbers jump up considerably. They're about twice as high as the numbers that have actually left reviews. So that's one way that people might be able to be enticed to leave reviews. And we'll talk about that very specifically in the automotive context. So that was some information about how social media reviews are viewed generally. Since we're focused on automotive here, let's take a look at how people use social media reviews for both automotive vehicle purchase decisions and automotive dealership decisions. And like Tom mentioned, I think a lot of this information can also be thought of across industry. So again, with a sample of recent car buyers, we found that about 58% of customers read customers' reviews when shopping for a vehicle. So that's about the vehicle itself. And the numbers have remained fairly consistent from 2017 to 2018, just up a couple of percentage points. But one thing to note here is that we do see that younger customers are using social media reviews more than older customers, which makes sense. They've grown up with the internet, they've grown up with reviews, they've grown up with things like Yelp and other review sites. So they're more attuned to reviews. When we ask them how useful the vehicle reviews have been, we get about half the people saying that they've been extremely or very useful. So about half saying they're not. And you see here, too, that there's differences between making a brand decision. Am I going to buy a Ford or a Toyota or a Honda or a Buick or whatever versus a model decision? And that kind of makes sense, that a lot of people pretty much already know what brand they're going to get, but they might be less knowledgeable about differences between models and things like that, and they might want to know more about models, so that makes sense. There's also a bit of a decrease in how useful people find reviews from 2017 to 2018. And that might be, part of the whole feeling that reviews might be biased or might be manipulated in some way, et cetera. Now, looking at how many people use reviews for dealership choice, we see that the numbers are a little bit lower than they are for vehicle purchase. But it's still a sizable group, about 35 to 40%. And again, we see a little bit of a decrease in usage from 2017 to 2018. But again, if you think about, this is 1/3 of people who are intenders, that's still a very big percentage of your intenders that you can influence through social media reviews. So even though these numbers aren't huge, it's still a very sizable part of your population. And again, here we see that as age goes up, use of the site of the reviews goes down. So again, younger people have grown up. So I expect as these people get older, the general usage is going to go up. We'll see as we track that. Okay, so when we look at how useful are dealership reviews, we see that, again, about half the people think that they're useful or extremely useful. Half don't. So we have some areas for improvement here as well. And we see that, I'm sorry, hold on just one second. Sorry about that. It's winter in Ohio, so the colds kind of can get to you. Anyway, so about half of the people find the reviews useful. So again, areas for improvement here. Now, let's look at what sites people use, or where do people go. Now, these graphs from 2017 to 2018 look a little bit different, and that's because we added some sites in 2018 that we didn't ask about in 2017. But basically, when people are going to look for vehicle reviews, they're looking at the major sites. The car icon there is Edmunds.com, and then we have Google, Facebook, and Dealer Rater on the left. When we asked in 2019, we added Kelley Blue Book, dealer websites, and automotive websites. And you can see here that people are going to dealer websites and automotive manufacturers for vehicle reviews. They're also going to traditional places like Kelley Blue Book and Edmunds. So, and those are kind of the major ones that people are going to. When people look for dealerships, they're going to dealership websites, Google, and automotive manufacturer websites, and Yelp. So those are the big sites where people are looking for reviews. And I think it's really important there to think about the fact that people are looking for customer reviews at dealer sites. They're looking for it at automotive sites. And a lot of dealer sites don't have reviews, and if they do, sometimes they're kind of biased and things like that. There seems to be a positive bias. So we really need to get good, honest, unfiltered reviews at dealership websites and auto websites, and also to places, especially Google. And the other thing that's really important about Google is that you don't have to go looking for reviews on Google to get Google reviews. That if you're simply trying to get the address of your dealership and you type in your dealership into Google to find the address, it brings forward to you, hey, we have 34 reviews about this dealer. Do you want to look at them? So Google is particularly important because a lot of people get exposed to it even when they're not looking for those. Then we ask people how many have submitted reviews. And in the U.S., we see a bit of a decline from 53% to 41% in 2018. And, to be honest, I'm not quite sure what that's about. It's going to be really interesting to see if that trend continues. It may be because, right now, especially, people are very concerned about privacy. People are very concerned about hacking. Things have come out like GDPR and those sort of things. A lot of privacy policies are being put into place. So as those fears get allayed a little bit, I'm hoping that more people will be writing reviews. But I also think, as we're going to talk about, that we can encourage people to write reviews and cause this number to go up. We also asked them what types of reviews they left, because this number here is how many people left any sort of review for a dealership or a vehicle. Here we're looking at what types of experiences they left reviews for. So here you see that people generally leave reviews more for sales experiences than for service experiences at the dealership. And if you think about it, that makes sense because the sales experience is much more salient. It's a high price thing. You're usually feeling pretty good after buying a car. So people are leaving reviews for that more than they are for service. And also, people are leaving sales experience dealership reviews more than vehicle reviews in general. And that sounds like it might be a little bit counterintuitive, but when I put myself in the place of a customer, I'm thinking it's a little bit harder to figure out where to leave those vehicle reviews. So maybe that has something to do with it. We also asked people if they'd be willing to leave a review at a review site if they were asked after completing a customer experience survey from their automotive company. And in both 2017 and in 2018, over half of U.S. customers said they'd be willing to leave both positive and negative reviews. And slightly more people said that they would leave reviews that were positive as compared to negative reviews. If you look, let's take this 2018 data, look at those black bars there. So people said, if I'm not going to leave both positive and negative, I leave positive reviews over negative reviews. And I think that's really important because in the work that we've done with dealerships and channel partners, a lot of times these channel partners are very concerned that, hey, it's going to be bad for my brand image, it's going to be bad for my marketing because, quote, only upset customers leave reviews. And people aren't saying that. People are saying that they will leave positive reviews over negative reviews. And I was kind of thinking about, why that might be. And I think that, possibly it has to do with, maybe not wanting to put bad information out there. There have been some articles on the web and things like that about people getting pushback after putting negative reviews out. So it's nice to know that people are really, focusing on the positive, and that should allay the fears of a lot of the dealerships. For the people that said that they wouldn't leave reviews or haven't left reviews, we asked them why. And these are the top things that came up in 2017 and 2018. And generally, they're pretty consistent. Some people saying they don't have any interest. Others people saying they don't want to take the time to do it. Those are things that I think can be pushed a little bit, and people are encouraged a little bit. We can get past those points. A lot of people said, about 20%, I've never been asked to leave a review. So if you ask them, they might do it. The things that are more important that, maybe we can't get past is people saying that they don't have experiences to write about, but only 10% or 6% of those people, and probably concerns about privacy. So those people, it'd be hard to get motivated to post reviews. But the other people, I think we really can get them to post reviews. So, like I said, we asked people, if you were asked, would you leave reviews and what would you leave reviews for? And you see here that the numbers go up slightly, except for vehicle reviews from 2017 to 2018. And between a third and almost half of people are saying they would leave reviews. So a third are saying they would leave reviews for sales experiences. Up to nearly half are saying they leave reviews for service experiences. So people are saying they're willing to do that. So what I'm trying to point here is that if after doing a OEM survey about a product, about a vehicle experience, about any sort of experience, if you ask people to leave reviews, people say they're going to do it. Now, one of the things that we often hear about in survey research is, well, people say they're going to do things, but they don't really do them. So I have a really brief case study that I'd like to share with you. And this is based off of a large automotive program that we do. And what we did is at the end of their customer experience survey, we asked customers if they're willing to post a review on the automotive manufacturer's website. And what's really important here is that this is done regardless of the customer's reported experience. So if they were, super happy and gave top box for everything, we asked them, but also if they were super unhappy and gave bottom box for everything, we also asked them. There was no filtering of customers in terms of how happy they were. Customers who agreed were asked to provide a review about the dealership, and we were very specific, this is about the dealership, this is not about the vehicle. And we also explained to them, the reviews will be reviewed not for favorability, but we need to make sure there's no personal information, there's no profanity. Again, it must be about the dealership experience. So people submitted those reviews, and then these reviews were posted at the manufacturer's site. And then dealers are also able to respond to those reviews. And one of the things that I actually had in this presentation that I took out because I was worried about time, but that I think I have a little bit of time to share, is that we also asked about how should dealers respond to reviews. And we said, if you see on the internet a response from a dealer or from a manufacturer that is, obviously a generic response, how would that affect your opinions of that dealer or manufacturer? And people that said that they'd see a generic response, more people said it would affect them negatively than would not affect them at all. But if their response is short and personalized, just something a little bit more personal, the view of the company went up considerably. So you want to do some sort of personalized response. We also had a very detailed personalized response option, and that didn't really change from the short personalized response. So there's responses you want to do. You want to make sure that they have some level of personalization in them, and you also want to make sure that they're not defensive. And that's one of the biggest faux pas of responding to somebody online, is to kind of start a quote Twitter war or whatever, where you're arguing with the customer. You never want to do that. It's very possible that the customer is being unreasonable, but you don't want to have that argument in an open forum. A really quick study, I'm a member of an athletic club. Somebody left a nasty review about the athletic club online, and the athletic club responded with something like, we consider this issue solved, and we continue to get 5-star ratings from other customers. Something was just wholly inappropriate. And I obviously called the club and gave them some advice about how to respond to things online. Anyways, back to our case study. How did this work out? Well, about 30% of service customers and nearly 50% of sales customers did agree to leave reviews and actually left them. And so that's about what they said. It was actually a little bit of an inverse. With the 50% of service customers said and 30% or the other way around, but a lot of people left reviews. The other thing that's really important here is that approximately 90% of the reviews came from customers who provided a top box customer rating. So the reviews were predominantly positive. As a matter of fact, almost too positive, that some of the dealers were worried that this looks like it's been filtered. But one of the things that we can do is we can put on those sites, if the company is willing to do it, something like, this data has been gathered by an independent research company. It has not been filtered for positivity or other things. So we can validate those reviews and also validate that they're coming from a real customer. This program generated over 500,000 reviews in its first year, so that's a huge number. And again, we can attest to the fact that these are real customers and that they're not filtered. Actually, if you do ask people to post reviews, generally they do it. So the takeaways that I wanted to give you are that about half of automotive buyers read reviews to determine what vehicle they want to buy. However, only about half of them find these reviews useful. So we need to do stuff to make those reviews more useful. We need to make sure that people understand that they're real customers and that they've been validated. And also, people are looking at reviews at both manufacturer and dealer websites. So it's really important that we can get reviews out there for people to see. Also, the results are very consistent across the 2 years. Customers' trust in social media reviews is split due to perception of fake reviews, lack of validation, skewing towards negative experiences. Those are all fixable problems that, again, if we validate them, if we are very upfront about the fact that they haven't been filtered, those things can be addressed. Also, 1/3 to 1/2 of people say they would be likely to leave a review at a dealership if they're asked. So integrating a prompt into your customer experience surveys can provide a means to do that. And by the way, you can do that very simply just by sending them to various sites. Or if you want a more sophisticated program, you can also do things like have dealers or have your channel partner be able to choose what sites to send people to, because there are a number of different rating sites out there, and if a dealer needs to improve his score at Google versus improve his score at Yahoo versus improve his score at Yelp, we have the capabilities to send people to different places to get better results there and to get a better representation. The other thing that's important about spreading out those results are that you want your dealership or your channel partner to appear as a thriving business. And one of the things that helps you appear as a thriving business is to have a lot of reviews and to have a lot of recent reviews. You know, it's kind of like when you're walking around town looking for a restaurant in some town you haven't been to. You look into one place that's way too crowded, you don't want to go there. But then if you go to some other place and there's nobody in the restaurant, you don't want to go there either, right? Because that's probably telling you something. So you want some place that's got some customers and is showing some action. Very same things here. And then finally, people actually do what they say they do. So if you do this, you can generate results and generate a lot of them. So that's the basic gist of what I wanted to say today. So I think what I'll do is turn it back over to Tom for questions and answers.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much, Dave. Great insight, and as always, presented and delivered really well. So thank you for that report. Most of us have been on that customer side when we're purchasing a car or some other big ticket items. So really interesting data. So yeah, we have several questions that came in. I'm going to go with one, and I'll kind of combine it. So if people were reading dealership reviews somewhat less in 2018 than 2017, do you think that leaning on those reviews is maybe becoming less important? And then the second part is, what would be your prediction for maybe 2019?
Well, yeah. So I'm not really sure if they're, I don't think they're probably becoming less important, but obviously I have kind of a horse in that race. But it'll be interesting to see if it goes down over time. You know, I think that maybe part of that is, you know, in the United States especially, there's kind of a charged atmosphere in terms of social media. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Facebook and privacy concerns. There's been, you know, a lot of things about, you know, privacy concerns about Alexa and all that kind of stuff gets tied together. So I'm thinking that it's probably more of a general, just kind of resetting or maybe reluctance about social media and interacting and privacy concerns. And I'm thinking as those things get sorted out, which I think they will, things will bounce back a little bit. But then again, the other thing to think about is that, you know, even though it's sliding a little bit, it's still a large chunk of your customers. Mm-hmm. So it's still important.
Okay, good. Do you know how soon after a sales or service experience customers typically post a social review? Do you think it's within 1 day or week, or what's the timing on that?
I don't have any data to support that, so this is a opinion rather than a fact. You know, I would think most people would post, if they're going to post, within a week or so, unless they're prompted otherwise. So if you get a prompt after that, you very well might do it. But I would think probably, you know, within a week.
Okay. And what is your advice on responding to negative Google reviews? Should all be responded to? This person said it's been a hot issue with their leadership team.
Did you say responding to negative Google reviews? Is that what you said?
Google, yeah, negative Google reviews. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think in generally they should be responded to. Yeah, I would try to respond to all of them, but I'd try to be, obviously very tactful. I would encourage, a lot of times what's a really good response that doesn't get into anything is, you know, hey, we're sorry you had a poor experience. Please contact us here and let's work it out, and you know, let's address the issue. So get the discussion offline. Don't be having a big discussion online. And like I mentioned before, it's really important not to be defensive, even when, you know, the customer is frankly wrong. You know, that sometimes customers are wrong, but you can't be defensive in an open forum. So yeah, I think it is important. And basically what you want to think about when you're responding to somebody's review, either positively or negatively, is really don't think too much about that person. You want to, but what's really much more important are, you know, what are the other millions of people that are looking at this response going to think? So be thinking about that when you're responding.
Okay. Next question is, a lot of dealers and others, I guess other businesses, just want to show positive reviews. What do you think of that practice?
I think that's generally a bad practice. And the reason for that is that things don't look real if you're only showing positive reviews. Everybody knows that, you know, sometimes people are upset. And you know, if you think about it, when you're looking at something and it's just positive after positive and positive and positive, you tend to discount it. So having some negative reviews on there adds to the authenticity of the data. The other thing that I just found out about this yesterday, which was interesting, is that there was a test on Amazon. But you know, if you look at Amazon, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll post top positive review and then top critical review right next to it. So they pull up the top critical review. And they did a test on that where they looked at people where they had one condition, they only showed the top positive review. And then the other condition, they showed the top positive and the top critical review. And, you know, when you're on Amazon, you're looking at a product, right? So you're thinking about buying something. And they found out that conversion rates were higher when they showed both positive and the top critical review than when they showed the top positive review only. So that's more evidence that having some critical reviews in there does add to the authenticity of the data, and people believe it more. And you know, the other really important thing to think about it, because everybody just goes, oh, it's going to be negative, is I've been doing customer experience research for 20 years, and vast majority of our data is positive reviews, is positive ratings. You know, we have problems with top box and having too many of them and differentiating the data. So if you do this, you know, for almost every industry, you're going to get way more positive than negative reviews.
Okay, thank you. And then this person wanted to know if we would be doing follow-up surveys among those who said they did not write a review to find out why they did not write one. I think that was maybe back on slide 23, you may have referenced some reasons why they may have not, might not have done that. And then I have another question that leads into that, but if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, so that wasn't actually a follow-up survey. What we did is we asked people if they left reviews, and then we had a skip pattern within the survey that if they said they hadn't, they got the questions about why don't you leave reviews. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so we had another question about, in the same vein. So it says automotive review dropped to 41% in 2018. And we kind of stated that mainly because of fear about privacy. And then it was noted that maybe the customers concerned about privacy is only 20%. And they're wanting to know about the correlation there.
Yeah, it's hard to tease out for sure. You know, I was looking at that change too, and I think it's going to be really good to do this next year because, you know, two data points isn't a trend, 3 can be a trend. So I don't know if that was just kind of a fluke or not. We'll have to see. But you know, I was pretty much conjecturing, okay, you know, if it went down, why would it have gone down? And to me, that seemed like a possible explanation. I hope I explained it as a possible rather than as a definitive explanation. Long story short, I'm not 100% sure why it went down.
Okay. We had a question about the 30% and 50% of the respondents to the survey or of the total customer base. Is that 30% and 50% of the respondents to the survey or of the total customer base? Sorry.
30% of the respondents, but that represents the customer base. And one of the things that it's not real important, but is we also weighted this data for demographics for automotive buyers. So it's, you know, it's typical sample research where the sample represents the population. Does that answer the question?
Well, from my perspective, it does. A question about channel partners now. So if this person wanted to know if they were going to start asking customers to post reviews, how do we address reluctance on the part of their channel partners who are being reviewed?
Right. So even though you can probably show them this data, they probably won't believe it. My advice, and this is really my advice whenever you start a large initiative with channel partners or anybody like that, is to start off small and do a pilot study. So, you know, if you have a bunch of channel partners, you can ask for volunteers, or you can take a random sample and try to recruit volunteers, but just start with a small number of your channel partners to their surveys add the question, would you be willing to provide a customer review at any of these sites? Do that for 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, and then look at the results. And then you have data that is very specific to your industry, your company, your channel partners, that you can show the other channel partners and say, hey, if we do this, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing increases in number of customer reviews by X%. We're seeing this number being positive and this number being negative. And that's what they'll believe because, again, in doing 20 years of research, every client, every channel partner, they all think they're different for different reasons, which a lot of times they are, but that gives, your company's channel partners evidence that, for people just like me, this is working. So pilot study.
Okay, cool. Regarding the frequency of customers using reviews by business type, did you overlay that with the number of reviews on average for those businesses, for example, gas stations? It seems at first glance that those businesses with low review usage are businesses that don't have a lot of reviews.
Yeah, I would agree. And then the question is chicken or egg, right? Is that there isn't a lot of usage because there aren't reviews, or there aren't reviews because people aren't interested in reviews for those things. So no, I didn't correlate that with actual number of reviews out there because I'd have to go to all sorts of different places for all sorts of different industries. The other thing on that slide that I thought was important is that, for some of those industries down at the bottom of the list, like gas stations and convenience stores, the numbers of people writing and reading reviews was really small, and that's a pretty high frequency event. So to me, that means, well, maybe it's not so important for those industries. There's some other things down there like agricultural equipment manufacturer that the number was pretty small, but not a lot of us are buying ag equipment. So that's a low frequency event given a population. So if we probably, just looked at farmers for them, the numbers would be a lot higher. So I think it's both a combination of, is it important or not? Maybe not so much for the high frequency events, but maybe it is for the low frequency events, and that's just a artifact of the data of it being low frequency.
Mm-hmm. Great. So how different do you think the results would be if we looked at other industries like hospitality, financial services, consumer goods? Do you have any observations or thoughts on that? Have we done any comparisons there?
Are they asking how different would the results be for those companies if we did a general population study rather than an automotive buyer study? If that's the question, I think that for a lot of them, those percentages would go up and the automotive would go down. So now we did ask about hotels and others within this automotive buyer study. So what is the benefit of obtaining reviews from customers if we're thinking that many people are leery to trust the reviews? I'm sorry, say that again?
So they're asking what is the benefit of obtaining reviews from customers if they're leery to trust reviews, right? So.
Right. So I agree with that. So I think what we need to do is to do things to help customers trust the reviews. And some of the things that we can do there are we can certify that, these reviews were collected by an independent company that's not, whatever the company is being measured. So, if we're doing it for a client, we verify that Merit CX has collected these reviews, and we verify that that this is a real customer, that it's based off of an actual transaction this client had with the company, so they know it's not a fake customer or somebody just trolling out there. And we verify that it's hasn't been filtered in any way for being positive, and that we're showing all the ones that qualify in terms of privacy and those sort of issues. So I think that's really important. Just generating more reviews doesn't help if people don't trust them. So we want to do things to make them more trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to wrap it up today, but I just had one final question. Anything that you found in this study that was surprising to you?
We talked about it a little bit, the little bit of a drop-off that we saw in some of the importance of the reviews, or people leaving reviews. That surprised me a little bit. And it'll be interesting to see if it changes. Anything else that really shocked me? Not that I can think of right now. I'm sure it'll come to me later.
Okay. All right. Well, that is going to do it for today. I want to thank Dave Ensing for another great presentation on this Merit CX webcast. Thank you all who joined us. Thanks, Nathan Sykes, for producing this show, and we hope you will join us again on the next Merit CX webcast. Have a great day.